old Wakefield schoolhouse. In 1847, the Reverend Elijah F. Watson, minister, prosperous farmer, and longtime member of South Kingstown School Committee, deeded to the town of South Kingstown a parcel of land in the center of Wakefield as a site for a schoolhouse. Mr. Watson's deed specifically stated the land was to be used for school purposes only, a clause which gave the town some necessity for legal action in later years. In 1849, a two-room schoolhouse was erected on the lot by the town for the use of Wakefield School District Number 6. At the time, although the schoolhouses were built at town expense, all school functions were administered through separate school districts. There were 22 school districts in South Kingstown, which then included Narragansett. These districts operated much as a town itself, each having an elected moderator, clerk, and tax collector, and took care of all school operations, including school building, maintenance, books, and teachers' salaries. This system remained in force until August 1902, when all the duties of the various school districts were absorbed by the towns of South Kingstown and Narragansett. On page 78, we show a picture of this first two-room schoolhouse, taken about 1865. Here, many of South Kingstown's prominent citizens and civic leaders around the turn of the century received their early education from such dedicated teachers as Mr. John H. Teft, Abby Pullen, Sarah Prosser, and Mr. Teft's sister Anne. About 1879, the two-room schoolhouse was moved nearer the street, and 4 more rooms added to take care of the growing school population. The building after the additions, and the one which had a more prominent place in this narrative, is shown on page 78. This was the school which served the needs of the pupils in the vicinity of Wakefield until a new, larger schoolhouse was built across the pond in 1908. Then, as now, most towns were faced with the need of expanding school facilities, and it was very true in South Kingstown. By the beginning of the present century, it was seen that a new location must be found and a larger school erected in the Wakefield area. At the town meeting of 1907, $6,000 was appropriated for the purchase of several acres across the land of Horace Northup, Daniel Sherman, and the Wakefield Milco, and plans were made for the erection of a new school there. This is the same general area now occupied by the present Wakefield Elementary School and Saugatuck Park. In 1908, a contract of $30,000 was awarded to Mr. Louis Bell toward the new schoolhouse, which was completed during the following summer and opened for school in September. This was destroyed by fire on the night of March 11, 1963, and was soon replaced by the present school building. In August 1908, before the opening of the new school, the Reverend J. W. Forbes, then pastor of the Peacedale Congregational Church, purchased the Jacoy property on Main Street as an approach and built at his own expense the footbridge across the river to the school. The original bridge was of rustic design, raised higher in the center, and was very picturesque, but some years ago had deteriorated to a point where it had to be replaced by the present structure. The old schoolhouse on Main Street was now empty, but not for long. About this time, a need developed for the new high school to replace the old building, which had housed the school since 1880. The South Kingstown High School had been started by Captain George W. Kenyon at his home in Narragansett in 1872 and carried on in Columbia Hall by the Reverend George W. Fisher until the hall burned in 1880. During the following summer, throughout the generosity of the Hazard family, a new high school was erected on the site of what is now the Hazard Elementary School. The last class to graduate from the old high school was the class of 1909. The building was soon moved to a location on School Street where it is now an apartment building, and contracts were let for the construction of a new high school, which is now the Hazard Elementary School. Construction of the new school was started in November 1909. School was opened in the new building in January 1911, and officially presented to the town the following September. Now back again to the old schoolhouse on Main Street, which now became the South Kingstown High School for the class of 1910. After the opening of the new high school in 1911, the building was empty and seemed it would never again be used for school purposes.
Declared no longer useful, it was put up for auction by the town on Saturday, December 13th, 1912. It was sold to contractor Louis F. Bell for $14.50. Mr. Bell already had plans for the building, having purchased a site directly across the street where he put in a foundation, and shortly before Christmas 1912, the schoolhouse was moved across the street to a new home.